I'm 103 years old, and I'm about to tell you something no one else will. Not your parents, not your therapist, not the shiny self-help books stacked on your nightstand. They won't say it because it's too raw, too blunt, too uncomfortable. I've lived more than a century, long enough to watch the world shed its skin again and again. I've buried husbands, children, friends, neighbors, whole eras of my life. I've outlived everyone who once knew the girl I used to be. And after all that living, all that loss, I've learned one truth that still keeps me up at night. We act like we've got forever when we barely have a moment. You probably think wisdom comes slow, like wrinkles. It doesn't. The lesson hit me hard when I was 33, even though it took another 70 years to understand what it meant. Back then, I thought I had time to figure things out, time to be better later, time to love deeper tomorrow. That's the lie. Tomorrow is a slick talker. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here because if I don't say this now, I'll take it with me when I go, and that would be the real waste. So sit still, just for a minute, and listen. It was October 14th, 1955, a Friday. I remember because Fridays felt lighter back then, like the week was loosening its grip. I had plans, dancing that Saturday night, new dress hanging on the closet door, still smelling like the department store. My husband Robert had promised to twirl me like we were still kids. We'd been married 8 years, 2 little boys. James was 6, William barely 4. Robert worked at the steel mill, solid job, solid man. The kind who kissed my forehead every morning and said, "See you tonight, Dot," like it was guaranteed. That Friday, he didn't come home. The phone rang just after 6. I knew before I answered. Your body knows things your mind refuses to accept. A man's voice, careful and stiff, said there'd been an accident, machinery, heat, noise. They said it was quick. They always say that, like speed makes death polite. By midnight, my kitchen was full of people who didn't know where to stand. Coffee going cold, casseroles untouched, my boys asleep on the couch, their mouths open, dreaming about nothing at all. And me? I sat at the table staring at a chair that would never be filled again. Here's what nobody prepares you when someone dies suddenly. They don't just take their body. They take every word you didn't say, every "I love you" swallowed by routine, every apology postponed, every moment you chose busy over present. Robert left that morning like he always did. Lunch pail, worn boots, a quick kiss. I don't remember what I said back. That haunts me more than anything. That night, after everyone finally left, I scrubbed the kitchen sink until my hands burned. I didn't cry, not yet. I made myself a promise instead, standing there under the buzzing light. I promised I'd never waste another day. I promised I'd live awake, love loud, stop saving joy for later. I meant it. God help me, I meant it. For a while I tried. I hugged my boys tighter. I said I love you until it felt stitched into my mouth. I noticed sunsets. I breathed deeper. But life doesn't care about promises made in grief. Life keeps coming. Bills, work, school lunches, exhaustion. Slowly, quietly, I drifted back into old habits. I didn't even notice when it happened. That's the cruel part. You don't forget all at once. You forget inch by inch, and before you know it, you're asleep again. Being a young widow in the 50s wasn't romantic. It was lonely and awkward and heavy. People didn't know what to say to me, so they said nothing or too much. Some avoided me like grief was contagious. Others talked about Robert in the past tense like it was safer that way. I learned how to carry him with me, not like a wound, but like a shadow. He was there when I packed lunches, when I braided hair I wished I knew how to braid better. He was there when the boys asked questions I didn't know how to answer. At night, when the house went quiet, I'd sit on the edge of the bed and replay our last arguments, the dumb ones, who forgot to buy milk, why he worked late, all the stuff that felt massive then and microscopic now. That's when regret sharpens, not the big mistakes, the small ones, the sighs, the eye rolls, the moments you assumed you'd get another shot. I didn't know it then, but I was already breaking my promise, not because I didn't care, but because caring takes effort, and effort gets tired. Grief doesn't teach you how to live better, it just gives you the chance. By 1958, people started saying it was time to move on, time to let someone else in. I told myself I wasn't replacing Robert, I was just continuing. Charles was kind, soft-spoken, the type who fixed things quietly and never raised his voice. He loved my boys like they were their own. On paper, it was a good life. And it was, mostly. We built routines, Sunday dinners, Tuesday laundry nights, vacations we half enjoyed because we were always tired. I told myself this was what moving forward looked like: stability, predictability, normal. But here's the thing about normal: it lulls you to sleep. You start treating days like they're guaranteed. You say later like it's a promise instead of a gamble. Charles would ask me to sit outside with him in the evenings. I'd say, after I finish this. Sometimes I never did. He didn't complain. That somehow makes it worse. We had 42 years together. 42 years I thought I understood loss. I didn't, not yet. Because the biggest lesson wasn't about death. It was about forgetting how close it always is. People think regret comes from screaming fights or slammed doors. It doesn't. Regret sneaks in wearing sweatpants and carrying a laundry basket. It shows up on ordinary Tuesday nights when nothing seems important enough to stop what you're doing. Charles would come home tired, shoulders slumped, smelling of oil and winter air. He'd ask me how my day was, and I'd answer while folding socks, already halfway somewhere else in my head. He'd tell me stories, small ones, boring ones, and I'd nod without really hearing them. I told myself there'd be more time, tomorrow night, next week, after things slow down. They never slow down. Sometimes he'd ask me to take a walk, just around the block. I'd say, "Not tonight, hun, I've got too much to finish." He'd smile and say, "All right." That smile still hurts. When his heart finally gave out after 42 years together, the doctor said he lived a full life. They didn't mention the moments I traded away for chores that don't even matter now. That's when I learned something ugly. Love doesn't disappear. It waits patiently while you look the other way. And later, when it's gone, it charges interest. William got sick fast. Cancer doesn't care about your plans or your faith. He was 45, too young to know how close the end really is. I was 65 and thought I understood death by then. I didn't. Hospitals have a smell that sticks to you, plastic and disinfectant and fear. I sat by his bed, holding his hand, pretending to be strong. He apologized for not calling more. Can you believe that? My dying son apologizing to me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him we were both fools for thinking we had time. Instead, I lied. I told him everything was fine, that we had plenty of memories. We didn't. After he died, I replayed every missed call like a crime scene, every "I'll call him tomorrow." Tomorrow never showed up. That loss cracked something open in me that never closed again. It wasn't just grief, it was realization, deep, cold, and permanent. You don't get graded on love. At the end, you feel it, and you feel everything you didn't give. Here's what nobody tells you about surviving tragedy. You forget. Not all at once, slowly, gently. You wake up one day and realize you're back on autopilot. I told myself I'd learned, after Robert, after William. I told myself I was different now, wiser, more aware. Then I caught myself sighing when Charles told the same story again. I caught myself checking the clock during conversations. I caught myself thinking, I'll be more present tomorrow. That's the lie dressed up as hope. Forgetting isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It just eases you back into distraction. You start believing you've got time again. That's the real tragedy. By the time you notice, years are gone. I married Frank when I was 81, 21 years together. Even then, even after everything, I still scrolled through my phone while he talked, still thought I could listen later. Later didn't show up for him either. That's when it hit me. Pain doesn't teach you the lesson, repetition does, and humans are terrible students. Frank was 98 when he died. Sharp mind, slow body, kind eyes. We laughed about how ridiculous it was to fall in love at our age. We said things like, well, what have we got to lose? Turns out, everything. We loved quietly. Morning coffee, evening news, his hand finding mine without looking. Simple stuff, the kind that sneaks up on you. Even then, I caught myself drifting, thinking about errands, worrying about nothing, treating moments like they were refillable. They weren't. When he died, I didn't scream or collapse. I just sat there, staring at his empty chair, counting how many times I hadn't fully listened. That number still follows me. Living this long teaches you something brutal. You don't just lose people once. You lose them every time you remember a moment you wasted. That's the part no one warns you about. Memory becomes a mirror, and sometimes you don't like what you see looking back. I loved him, truly, and still I could have loved him better. That's a sentence that never stops echoing. At my age, goodbye isn't emotional, it's mathematical. Every goodbye might be the last one. That's not fear talking, that's numbers. People tiptoe around me now, like age is contagious. They say things like, you're so strong, or you've seen so much. What they don't understand is that strength isn't bravery, it's repetition. You don't get used to loss, you get practiced. My son James comes every Sunday, every single one. Rain, snow, heat. He sits across from me, drinks weak coffee, asks how I'm feeling. We talk about nothing and everything. And when he leaves, I stand at the window and watch him disappear, every time. Because one of these Sundays, I won't be here to watch him go, or he won't be here to visit. That's not pessimism, that's math. You think this kind of thinking only comes with age. It doesn't. It just takes age to admit it out loud. You don't need to be 103 to understand how fragile connection is. You just need honesty, and honesty hurts. My great-great-granddaughter Sophie is 16, bright, sarcastic, glued to her phone like it's oxygen. Last month, she sat across from me scrolling while I talked. I didn't say anything. What would be the point? She thinks she has forever. She thinks I'm permanent. She thinks moments are unlimited. She's wrong. One day, she'll remember this visit. She'll remember sitting in my living room while I told stories she half heard, and someday, when I'm gone, that memory will sting. Not because she was cruel, because she was distracted. That's the danger. Distraction doesn't feel like cruelty until it's too late. I wanted to grab her hand and say, "Look at me, really look, I'm disappearing." But I didn't, because every generation has to learn this lesson the hard way. I just wish fewer of you had to. Later is the most dangerous word in the English language. Later I'll call. Later I'll visit. Later I'll forgive. Later I'll live. Later never shows up. You think you'll travel when you retire. Your body won't cooperate. You think you'll fix relationships when things calm down. They don't. You think you'll become who you want to be when you're ready. You're ready now. The cruel joke is this: you already have time. You're just spending it like it's worthless. I spent decades trading time for worry, for politeness, for habits that didn't matter. And now time is the one thing I'd give anything to have back. You don't need more years. You need more attention. That's the secret nobody tells you. People say you survived, like that's the goal. I survived 3 husbands. I survived burying a child. I survived loneliness and silence and aging bones. But surviving isn't living. Living is sitting with someone when you're tired. Living is listening when you'd rather scroll. Living is choosing presence when distraction is easier. Most people don't die suddenly. They fade, slowly, quietly, while everyone is busy. That's what scares me most. Not death, but sleepwalking through life until it's over. I did it more than I care to admit. At the end, nobody asks about your resume. Nobody cares about your productivity. You remember pancakes, walks, laughter, silence shared. The smallest moments grow heavy with meaning. The big milestones blur, but Tuesday afternoons stay sharp. That's the truth I learned too late. You don't need a new life. You need to show up to the one you already have. I would tell my younger self this: you're going to forget. That's okay. Just remember and return. Every time you drift, every time you rush, every time you take someone for granted, notice it. Come back. Presence isn't permanent. It's a practice. You don't need perfection. You need persistence. Everything wants your attention. Almost nothing deserves it. Your phone, your fears, your ambition. But the people sitting in front of you, they do. Attention is love. That's the exchange rate. And it's expensive because it costs time. Spend it wisely. Call someone today. Not text. Call. Sit with someone without multitasking. Say what you've been holding back. Love louder. Listen longer. Stop waiting. You don't need permission to live differently. You just need courage to stop numbing yourself. The life you want isn't later. It's hiding in today. That's my regret. Not failure. Not mistakes. Absence. I was there, but not there. Don't repeat that. I'm tired now. Not afraid. Just finished. If you remember anything I've said, let it be this: later never comes. Love now. Pay attention now. Live now. That's all there is. And it's enough.